What up, YouTube? Kyle here with Rogue Tech. Last video I left you with the gaming / editing rig that I currently have. I've listed it for sale, so it's time to upgrade to bigger and better things. Great for gaming, not so good for productivity. So I decided to upgrade to something with a little bit more punch. Probably wondering, maybe not. I don't know. If you watched the last video, then you would know. If you're just watching this video, then I'm about to show you the parts for the new build. And let's get to that. Alright, first part on the list of this build, we'll start with probably the least important or anticipated parts and move up to the better parts. So starting off, this is a power supply from 2 Power. Probably not the best power supply that I probably could have got, but let me tell you why I bought this power supply. Overall, build quality seems pretty great. I mean, it's a power supply, so fully modular. Fully modular portion is why I bought this power supply. About 3 months ago, I bought a power supply from eBay, 1100 watt 2 Power power supply, and it turned out to be a dud after I ordered brand new modular cables for it because it didn't come with any. Figured I would take a chance, get a good deal, didn't pay off. So then I had $60 worth of modular cables that I couldn't fucking do anything with. Hence, buying a power supply that I could use them with. Ended up paying $42.50 for this power supply, shipped to my door. So $102.50 for a 600 watt power supply. Probably not the best bang for buck. Anyways, rant over on that portion. Moving on to the next part of this build. The Corsair H60 all-in-one 120mm water cooler. Picked this up tonight as of filming this video for $52 after a $20 Best Buy gift card, thanks to Samsung Pay. Should keep things nice and toasty, or nice and cool in the build. Get some good overclocking headroom. So, alright, next portion. Seagate Barracuda 1TB, 3.5 inch internal hard drive, 7200 RPM, good for some mass storage, quick load times. So pretty much just going to be using it for mass storage. Next on the list is, we'll go with this, Evo Potenza DDR4. I got a 2x4 dual channel kit, clocked at 2400 megahertz. So should be a pretty decent kit for what I'm going to be doing until obviously the channel becomes bigger and I require more hardware to produce better videos. Next on the list, oh, by the way, I paid $39.99 on sale at Micro Center for the the Barracuda hard drive, and $59.99 for the 8GB kit of RAM. Prices are getting expensive on RAM. In my last build, I paid $27 for an 8GB G-Skill DDR4 stick of RAM. This is getting ridiculous. Next part, Western Digital blue 250 gigabyte M.2 SSD. Should be a really good boot drive. Quick load times, enough storage to keep some extra files on. Try not to put too much on it to bog down the system. Couple of case fans to put in the $10 budget case that I picked up. If you caught my last video or first video, one of them, a Corsair Spec M2 case picked up for 10 bucks. Paid $89 for the M.2, $25 for the dual pack of purple airfoil 120. All right, now moving on. Graphics. Power color, Red Dragon RX 460. You're probably wondering why I would choose such a low-end card. Power draw, for one, trying to use less power. Two, I picked up this card for like 90 bucks. Pretty cheap, even though it's a 2 gigabyte card. The big thing is, it doesn't require any PCI connectors. And I have a second RX 460 that I'm going to run in Crossfire with this card that I'm taking out of the HTPC. So I paid $60 for the one in the HTPC right now. So overall, a cheap Crossfire setup. Hopefully we can get some good performance out of it. Just kind of hoping for the best on that one. Moving on. Try not to judge me too hardcore. AB350M Pro 4 motherboard, AM4 by ASRock. I got this in a combo with the CPU, which I will show you which CPU I chose in just a minute. After rebate, this was a $13 motherboard. Granted, it was open box, so it was a clearance item. And apparently it's only missing SATA cables. Not a big deal to me. I got plenty of extra SATA cables. So with it being marked down $16 initially, and then an additional $50 after that, so I picked it up super cheap, and it came with an additional 2-year warranty for like $1.60. Can't go wrong. Plus the reviews that I've heard so far say that it's got decent overclocking headroom, and overall it's a great motherboard for the price, and especially for $13. Come on. Alright, now on to the CPU of choice. I wasn't trying to break the bank, so I chose a budget end CPU, and by that I'm sure you could guess that I chose the Ryzen 5 1400. So this will be a quad core 8-threaded CPU, base clock of 3.2 gigahertz and boost up to 3.4. I've seen some overclocking on these get up to 3.7, 3.8. So I know I'll be taking a slight hit in gaming performance compared to the i5 6600K, but I'm okay with that sacrifice for the extra threads, for the productivity portion and the editing. So with that being said, there's the layout of the parts that I've got going on. And if you didn't get to see the case in the last video, Spec M2. Overall, it's a pretty solid looking case. So hopefully we'll get this built in just a few minutes. So stay tuned and we'll be right back.
City to get lost, the love to get. Whoever knows it, whoever knows it really wins. I just hope I see my bags again. I got to the gate and I might just take it on. They call up for it and I hope I'm not wrong, but whoever knows it, whoever knows it really wins. I can't sleep cause the travel is on my mind. Waking up in another zone in time, but whoever knows it really wins. I'm just on another plane, I'm home.
Pack light this time, one carry on, one bag under. Fill out my information tag, check my gate number. Off on another aircraft, hoping for exciting trek. Travel to a paradise where the sun don't set. Can't sleep cause these little pillows hurt my neck. See them comfortable, but more comfortable in the sky than below. Away from the rest of the world. Kosher meal, iPod, good book. Meditating in my sanity, taking off my pain. I'm on another plane, other plane again. I'm on another plane. I'm on a...
I've been hearing something, Mr. Chiller. Sounds like an engine run. Where? What direction? I can't make it out. It seems like it's all around us. Can't you hear it? Is that what you mean? Yeah, that's it. That's it. High-speed propeller bearing 105. Right, full runner. Right
especially with this power supply. I'm not even really sure what kind of cable this is. I mean, I like it, but I wish they would all be the same type of cable. But we'll work the cable management a little bit more later on, but right now we'll give it a test boot and get the Windows OS installed. Alright guys, build's complete. Got a post, got Windows loaded on the M.2. Unfortunately I had to switch to the bottom slot on the M.2. I guess the M.2 Ultra did not support the Western Digital Blue. Didn't realize that until after I already looked through the manual. Mistake on my part. So, everything's good, right? Well, in theory, yes. If I was one of those people that was happy working with an unlocked chip that I had no intentions of overclocking, I would say yes, everything is working perfect. Unfortunately, that's not me. So upon trying to get a decent overclock, hearing about 3.7, 3.8 being safe, I started messing around with the frequencies in the BIOS, and that's when everything went south. So it didn't matter what frequency above 3.2 that I tried to achieve, no matter what V-core I tried to achieve, no matter overclocking on the RAM. As soon as I even touched anything regarding the overclock tweaker and the BIOS, it just would not reboot. Had to clear CMOS every time. So I don't know if it was the chip, I don't know if it was the motherboard. So yesterday I returned both of them, including the RX 460, which I no longer needed because I couldn't run Crossfire and that build. But as you will see in a few minutes, a lot changed between this build and the final product. So without saying anything more, let's go ahead and dive into what has changed. Alright guys, let's start with the case. Ended up finding this after everything went south in the last portion of the build. The Spec M.2, or the Spec M2, I'm sorry, was not big enough to suit the needs that I wanted. Cable management was going to look awful, so it was just cramped for space, and I found this at Bargain Hunt, which is one of the places I talked about in my second video, stating that every once in a while you get lucky and you find a good deal. So I picked up this Corsair 450D for $40. So I mean, overall it's a nice case, with it being used, but the problem with this case was this portion does not click in, so it's only being supported by this. I guess it was a broken box item or whatever. Not a big deal to me. It's just room for a case mod later on. Second part is it was dented here, and this whole portion over here was dented in. So I ended up cutting this entire portion out with a Dremel, and I'm going to use some acrylic, frost it, and put it over top of that and create kind of like a light source with an LED coming out as part of the case. It should look pretty cool. In my head it looks good. We'll see how it turns out actually. So I've got a nice big windowed panel. Ended up with 16 gigabytes of RAM. I decided to upgrade yesterday upon turning all that back over to Micro Center. I upgraded the CPU from the R5 1400 to the R5 1600. Since I wasn't getting another graphics card, I might as well use that $100 that I was going to get back for it anyways, and kept the graphics card from my previous main rig, the R9 390. Overall, the whole case looks pretty well. So, with that being said, what's up? I wanted to downsize to a micro ATX initially, but realized that that wasn't going to be the case in this scenario, with it being my main rig. So, went ahead and went ATX on the motherboard, upgraded the CPU to the 1600 to get the extra performance, and upgraded to 16 gigs of RAM. So overall, I'm happy with how the build turned out. Just going to do a couple case mods, probably paint it. I found some rubberized spray paint that I'm wanting to try out, so I'll probably try on one of my other computers' panels first before I ruin this case. But there will be a video on that later. If I like the way that it turns out, then I will go ahead and dampen the case, and we'll work from there. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't, thumbs down. Comments are always appreciated, so click the subscribe button if you are a fan of the channel. If you want to see more, that's great. I'm always open to ideas on what I could do a video on next. So you leave your comments, I'll read them, and I will do my best to get a video about it. Later, Kyle from Rogue Tech Source, signing off.